Welcome back to another episode of Estradanary Conversations, the Ruben Estrada Show. I got my boy JD, James Downing. What's up, man?
Yeah, man. Great to be here. Good to see you, Rube.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, let's jump right in. What are you working on?
Working to continue to grow the business. I own a legal recruiting company, so we recruit attorneys on behalf of large law firms around the country. I'm specifically trying to grow our client base, which are law firms. So working on expanding our geographic footprint from Rocky Mountain region to the greater Midwest and largely in the southeastern part of the country, but working on growing the business.
What's been challenging about that?
I think it's time consuming. The business development piece is something that I love, but it takes a while to make the introductions and to develop relationships. So it's just a process, but nothing terribly challenging about it, just sitting down and doing it.
Yeah. So you're working with attorneys all the time pretty much, right?
Yeah, working with attorneys and legal departments at law firms, legal departments for corporations, but all attorneys all the time.
Wow. How did you get into that?
Well, I went to law school, and after law school, I went into the oil and gas business as a landman. And it was interesting. The work is interesting. It wasn't the career for me after a couple of years. And so when I was looking to pivot and do something else, I found a company that did legal recruiting amongst a handful of other industries, and thought it would be good just with my personality. I've always liked entrepreneurship and developing business, and I knew recruiting was a combination of business development, networking, certain social skills, and it seemed to be a fit for me. And tried it, interviewed, got hired with this company's legal recruiting division, and then skip ahead 10 years later, the colleagues that I work with there, we decided to form our own company. So kind of lots of twists and turns. It's not something I ever set out to do. It, I think it found me. But that's how I got there.
So, what did law school prepare you for this path, or is it like how did you happen to fall into this? Is it just, if you said it found you, but I mean, you had to have been doing something else to really it kind of finding you.
Yeah. Law school prepared me for it in certain aspects. I mean, law school really teaches you how to think analytically, how to be a good writer, all things that I use in my career now. Law school doesn't prepare you to be a legal recruiter. It prepares you to be an attorney. And I think in my second or third year of law school, I realized I didn't want to be a practicing attorney, and that's why I went into oil and gas for a few years.
So why is that? Why didn't you want to go? Like, that's kind of the natural path, right?
Yeah, it is the natural path. I don't know. I think there's a certain characteristic in me that always wanted to be in business, true business, as opposed to practicing law. I think practicing law is a great profession if that's what your calling is. But for me, there is something more that I wanted to do on the business side. And I just thought I could find it elsewhere.
What is that piece that you're looking that business, owning business, entrepreneurial? What is it about that kind of attracts you to it?
I love the freedom of owning your own business. I guess it's a double-edged sword. You're busy and married to it all the time, but I like that my efforts are directly correlated to the business's success, the decisions that I and my business partners make. There are decisions, and it impacts our business. So I like the leadership, the control of running your own business. I love business development. I like acquiring clients. I like growing it. So there's a lot of aspects to business ownership that I just find fascinating and that appeal to me. I think owning a business provides certain financial rewards that you can't have as an employee for a company. And so the upside of owning a business and being a successful entrepreneur, business owner, really spoke to me, and I was willing to bet on myself and take that chance.
Yeah. And I'm kind of in the same boat. I love entrepreneurship. Um, I love owning businesses. But what I found was I was seeking freedom, but there's not much freedom in that there are still things that you need to do that you don't like to do. And do you find that, or you're like,
Yeah, that's
I don't do
that's
any
life.
of those things.
There's a lot of things I don't want to do, but specifically to business, no, that's 100% right. I don't mind the administrative part of owning a business, but it takes away from the revenue generating actual activities of the business. So, I'm talking about things like bookkeeping and running payroll and, negotiating vendor contracts, things that probably could be outsourced as our business grows and matures. But we've been in business for 3 years now. And so we're still young enough to where it makes sense for my business partners and I to handle some of those things. Not always things I want to do, but things that I don't mind doing.
So you've always been pretty good about that. I mean, we've known each other for decades now.
35
Yeah.
years, if my math is.
And so that's a long time. You've always been pretty good about succeeding at kind of like whatever you put your mind to. I just remember you, always making the sports teams, always being a good athlete. Why is that? Like, what do you think is in you that you just competitive, or were you brought up that way? How did you get that skill?
Yeah, I understand the question completely. I am uber competitive, probably to a fault. I guess a better way to say that is I want everyone to do well. I just don't want everyone to do better than me, if that makes sense. So competitive, there's probably a subconscious undercurrent of fear of failure, which pushes me to succeed in what I try. And then I just have this weird, I like doing things for the sake of doing things. So I like school for the sake of school and learning. I like work for the sake of work. I like the process of it. Processes are very important to me. I have a very analytical mind. And so I think of things very linearly. So setting up a business, I found extremely easy just because it was do this, then you do this, then that allows you to do this, and then you can do this. So that part just makes sense in my head. But, for accomplishments or things that I set out to do, I think there's just a motivation to accomplish certain things in life, and I'd be remiss if I didn't try. At least I'm not terribly afraid of failure. If I try something and I work hard at it and it doesn't work out, I'm trying to get better at being able to accept that and move on. But
Have you faced some failure where you've been able to move on from?
Yeah, I think everyone faces some form of failure. I think it's how we define it. There's always, and going back to sports, there's always someone bigger. There's always someone better. There's always someone faster. And the same as in business, there's someone that's always a little more charismatic, perhaps has reached certain financial goals that others quite haven't. I don't know if that's necessarily failure, but there's been setbacks. I'm in a business where deals fall apart much more often than they come together and work out. So every deal that my team and I close on behalf of a law firm, is a victory, but we experience failures.
No, you're not batting 1,000.
No,
right?
no,
Yeah.
impossible,
Yeah.
impossible.
Hmm.
So, it's humbling and it's good, but I still get frustrated when things don't go our way. But back to your question, yeah, I think every day in life there's certain failures that people can identify or that I identify, and it's just part of the growth process. At least that's what I'm trying to view it as.
Hmm. Are you where you want to be, or where you thought you would be at this point in time? I just turned 46. I'm slightly older than you. And this question keeps popping in my head that I've had to answer, and I was just wondering if you're still what, 45?
45.
And we're several decades removed from school and life, and are you where you thought you would be?
Probably not where I thought I would be, but I can't really articulate to you what I ever thought I would be. I guess when I was in high school, college, I presumed, and this is probably more just society influencing me, but I thought I'd go to school, I'd be an attorney, or I'd go to school, I'd be a doctor. Things you see other people do that spend a lot of time and do well in school. So I'm probably not where I thought I would be at that point of life, but I'm happy. And I always thought I'd be happy. I thought I'd be married. I thought I'd have good friends. I thought I'd be active in the community, active physically in sports. And those are all things I'm doing. I always knew from an early age I'd own a business. Didn't know what kind of business. So in that regard, I am exactly where I thought I'd be.
Were you entrepreneurial when you were smaller or younger, I should say?
Very, very.
Oh.
If you remember when my mom lived near the golf course, we would go find golf balls in the weeds and in the river and then clean them up and try to sell them for $1 until we got kicked off the course. So
I never saw $1 from that endeavor.
No.
So if I was involved, I definitely did not get paid.
We should revise our splits. Maybe we'll revisit that. Yeah, always entrepreneurial. Yeah, very much so. I admire people that own their own business. I admire you and Tiana and the family. Anyone that sets off on their own course and kind of bucks traditional, I don't know, corporate America, maybe more of a broad term than I mean, but people that take a chance and bet on themselves, I admire and am intrigued by those kind of people. And I think that stems from me always wanting to do it.
Yeah. We've always had a discussion in my house. Is college for everybody? Because when we were younger, that was definitely something that was pushed on us. I don't know if it's like that today. I would assume so. That the path is graduate high school, automatically go to college. And do you feel like that's the path for most people? Or should you stop for a second? Because I didn't go to college. You guys, like all my friends who were in high school went to college. I chose a different path. How do you feel about that?
I think it's totally dependent. I don't think there's a blanket answer for that. Do I think college is a requirement for everybody? Absolutely not. Do I think learning is a requirement for everybody? Absolutely, I do. But that can come from school. That can come from hopping right into the workforce. That can come from a mentor. And I guess I'm talking about you and, the real estate professionals that you fell in with early in your career. That's not stuff you can learn in college at all. And, there's too many smart people that don't go to college and do amazing things in their life for anyone to say that you have to do this or get this degree to be successful. So the answer is no.
Yeah, I think I think our answer to that is, as parents, or if anybody asks us our opinion, is that if your profession or the thing that you're you're passionate about or you think you want to do requires a college education, then go that direction, right? You want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, things like that that require college education and a degree. Definitely, you need to go. But if your path is something different that doesn't require a degree, maybe finding somebody and shadowing in that space, that industry, might benefit you even more.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You have to, of course, match your passion, or one has to match their passion with what are the requirements to do whatever that is. And if that's school, which oftentimes it can be, then so be it. If it's not school, if it's more apprenticeship and learning on the job, then that's the answer.
So does your business require a degree?
No, I would consider our business fairly low barrier to entry. Having a law degree helps just for credibility, right or wrong, but it does help.
Tell me more about that. Why? Because your clients or your customers won't. They feel like you need to be on the same level, or how does that work?
No, and I don't think they view us on the same level. I don't know if they do or not, to be quite honest with you, but I think working with lawyers and law firms, it doesn't hurt to have a background in law, even if that's just attending law school. There's some commonality there. It's not a requirement by any means in my business, but it doesn't hurt either.
Okay. So looking back, do you feel like you could have done it without going to law school? Like, do you think you could benefit of being in your space longer than you have? Like you would have mastered it faster or been further ahead?
Could I have? Yeah, I could have. Would I change it if I had the choice to maybe jumpstart or shave, 5 years off? Probably not. I believe, and this is more abstract maybe than I'm meaning, but I believe that life throws you a lot of forks in the road, and one path leads you to a certain direction and another path can lead you to another. And in the path that I took, which included college and law school, eventually led me here. So I can't with a straight face say I'd go back and change it. Could I still do what I do without all that? Yes, but the learning curve might have been a lot more difficult or challenging. So I think, it at least has benefited me.
Okay. I can see that. What do you do for fun?
Lots of stuff. Love golf. I fence competitively, the Olympic sport fencing. I don't put up fences, but I like to fence.
How did you get into that?
Well, I had a stroke in 2017, and I was looking for something to do competitively sports-wise. Because of the stroke, my left side of my body is impaired, weaker than my right. So I can't, soccer was my favorite sport growing up. So I can't run like I used to. I can't use my left arm like I used to, but I can still play golf. And so to answer your question, I was looking, the miracle of the internet, I supposed. I was looking for sports that were adaptive, that I could compete in, not just kind of have fun and go play golf, but like where I can actually compete against somebody. And I found a fencing club in Denver and went and tried it one time and enjoyed it. And there were other disabled athletes from all kinds of, for different reasons, that were there, and found a nice little sport that was a great workout and that I could compete in and that I found myself pretty good at. And now I go around the country competing in fencing and even compete on occasion with the U.S. para fencing team.
Wow.
But to answer your question, the internet, I found it.
That's where you find all your sources of fun. Okay.
That's where it all comes from.
Okay. Google search.
Yeah. I read, love documentaries. What else do I do for fun? My favorite are generally World War II documentaries.
Where does this come from?
I don't know.
History?
History. Love history. Love Civil War type stuff. Love military history, the strategy behind things, seeing how things developed and why things in the world went the way they did. But the World War II documentaries are some of my favorite.
Have you learned anything from them that would apply to today? Or do we just have the same problems?
I hope I've learned some things. I watch enough of them.
Do you watch it just strictly for entertainment, or do you try to take some learning, just like strategy and?
Mainly for entertainment. I think, especially around World War II, I find it interesting how things just escalated, but it started somewhere, right? Like it started slowly and there were no checks and balances on certain evil leaders' rise to power. So I guess what I speculate on is how can the world and nations of the world collectively prevent against that in the future, or the threat of that in the future.
What other documentaries? Do you like murders and like serial killers? Or business documentaries?
I haven't ever really got too deep into business type documentaries. Most of my business stuff comes from books. I like to read a lot. Yeah, I like the murder mysteries. I do like those just for pure entertainment. But if it's too creepy or too scary, then I don't want to watch it.
Okay. Is it? I feel like the more real it is, the more scary it is.
Yeah,
like it could be your next door neighbor.
Right. Yeah. I like to keep the weird stuff at arm's distance.
What else do you do? So you say you read
a lot,
and we read a lot. And one of the conversations we have often is that you could read too much, in that you read all these books, but then there's like zero implementation.
Oh, it's stressful. Find that? It's stressful. Yeah. I can.
Or you could even read two books that contradict each other, and it's like, okay, well then which one did I do? And then you end up doing nothing.
Yeah. It's kind of the paralysis by analysis type thing. Yeah, I'm very good at buying books and stacking them, and then have all my business magazines, and it's stressful to look at. I have to, but I've been doing this weird thing where I'll pick like 4 or 5 books, take them to my office, and I'll read one chapter a day. And they may all be different things. It could be business, it could be spiritual type stuff, it could be history, it could be sales, but I'll read one chapter and just let it sit and see if I pick. It's like reading roulette. You just and then you forget where you read it because you have 5 books.
Oh, so is it even like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, or do you just randomly pick a chapter and just start reading it?
No, I'll do it. I'll do it in order that the author has. No, I don't just.
Well, of course, that's why I thought about roulette. It's like, I'm going to throw a dart and see which chapter.
No, it's just mixing a bunch of different books and principles together, and usually whatever resonates the most will stick with me, and I'll try to implement. But I'm not the best at implementing things if it doesn't really, really talk to me.
Okay. Do you feel like you're challenged?
Yeah. In life or business?
Both.
Definitely. I mean, it wouldn't be fun to do if you weren't challenged. There's got to be some kind of gamesmanship to life. You're always trying to do something or achieve something, and that's the challenge in itself, right? So as a business owner, it was starting the business was challenge 1. Challenge 2 was working collectively with my business partners to keep it open and to have a successful first year. The next challenge is, can we get to 3 and 5 years? So right now we're in our third year. There's certain financial metrics, but it's always a challenge. Legal recruiting is people aren't just looking to leave their job. So
yeah, most people are employed and happy.
Yeah, you're digging deep to find something that could be a good fit for somebody. So the work itself is a challenge. And then, life, it's not easy. I found it's not hard, but it's not easy. So there's always certain things that I try, but I try to put myself in positions that challenge me or make me uncomfortable. So yeah, I feel challenged.
Are you a challenge to live with?
Probably yes.
Probably, yeah. Why do you say that?
I don't know. I think I'm delightful, but yeah, I think the way my brain works probably makes me challenging to live with. I think the competitiveness can bleed over into my marriage. We don't really compete against each other, but it's, again, the way my brain works, we should be doing this to get here. And we need to take these steps to do that. And when you're married, your partner may not always agree with you.
I found that most of the time they don't.
Goals. Yeah. Sometimes you do, and it works. But
is it hard owning a business that your wife is not involved in? Because I know when Tiana and when I first started in real estate, it was very difficult. There was a lot of pressure on our marriage because I'd come home and with some frustrations and working late and working evenings and weekends and trying to launch the business and get that thing off the ground. I would bring home my problems, but she couldn't understand where I was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So it put pressure on the marriage. Do you find that it's difficult if you're both doing two different types of industries?
For us, no, I prefer it that way compared to what you just explained. And from what I remember when you and Tiana were a new couple getting started in the same business, that would petrify me. No, for Melissa and I, it's good that I have my thing. She has her thing, which she's very good at. And it kind of, we kind of hedge each other's bets because I'm in a more or less a sales business. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's less than great. Hers is more consistent. So that helps for my peace of mind, probably. But what I will say is that having a supportive spouse, regardless if they can understand the exact nuances or details of your frustration or my frustration, having a supportive spouse that believes in you is, well, it's invaluable. I'd be lost if she panicked when I panicked. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like she believes in me and supports me, and I think that steadies the ship.
Yeah. No, you got a good lady there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's good.
She's good. We'll have to have her on and just get the other side of that. And probably the truth.
If you have a 5-hour podcast, sign her up. She'll talk.
Sign her up. So tell me about, I was there with you with the stroke, and you can tell me to shut up or whatever and not share anything, but how was that experience? How has that experience framed you going forward?
Yeah, I think it changed me, and I'm happy to talk about it. I think, well, I'll say a couple things. I think it was something that happened so quickly.
So what happened? I don't know if I remember. Were you down for a while?
Yeah. I woke up and just collapsed immediately. I probably had the stroke in my sleep.
Oh, wow.
I was getting up to go to the gym, or at least that was the plan. Got up and I just collapsed. And I
Fell on the floor?
fell on the floor, couldn't get back up. And Melissa was out of town at the time. And so I was on the floor, not able to stand back up because my left leg and left arm weren't working at the time. And so I was on the floor for 12 hours, which is, in hindsight, pretty scary. I don't recall being scared at the time, but in hindsight, to be having a stroke and without help for 12 hours is pretty terrifying.
You don't remember that?
No, I remember everything.
You do? Oh, you do? Okay. So you remember, like, dang, I'm laying here for a long period of time.
Yeah, I remember laying here. I think I had a concussion because when I fell, I hit our dresser.
Oh, wow.
So I was kind of out of it. But I just shuffled around our condo at the time, kind of on my back, pushing with my right leg. And I had no idea that 12 hours elapsed, but it did. But I had a golf club in my hand, and I was ready to break the window to
get help,
draw attention to what was going on, even though I had no idea what was going on. I think that might have been the concussion, but stroke never popped into my head as what was happening.
Wow. And you were scared?
Kind of. I knew something was wrong, but I don't really remember being scared. It was just confusion.
Oh, okay. Like knowing I need help, and that's my focus.
Right. I need help, and I'm alone, and some reason I can't stand up.
Right.
So yeah, it impacted me, and so it happened. I eventually got to a hospital. Melissa's cousin came over, found me, took me to a hospital, got treatment. Luckily, everything was, not to the point where I'd have severe brain damage or, but the being on the floor for 12 hours is why the left side is still weaker, is just, it wasn't getting blood flow. So, it happened. It's something that once you kind of come to in the hospital, you're different. I guess one of my favorite quotes, and this ties back to my business as well. I think it's Confucius that says everyone is born with two lives, and the second one begins when you realize you only have one. So that's kind of how the stroke impacted me. It's like, okay, well, this big thing happened. It was, major health scare. Boom. All of a sudden, new light is shed on what's important: friends, family, doing what you want in life. So
there's some clarity.
I like to view it as a weird, unfortunate blessing in disguise, maybe. I mean, maybe unfortunate's not even the right word. I'm not angry about it. I get frustrated about certain things I can't do. But that's about the extent.
Do you like talking about it?
I don't mind it.
You don't? Okay.
Doesn't really.
So somebody asks you about it, you'll tell them? Or you
just like a normal conversation.
Really?
Doesn't bother me.
Okay. Do you help other stroke victims?
Sort of. I fence with other fencers that had strokes, and the disability community is pretty helpful. But do I go to rehab facilities and speak to them or chat with them? I have not recently. I have in the past. Some I'd be open to. Strokes are kind of weird because everybody's so different. Somebody could be fully paralyzed. Somebody could forget or not forget, but be unable to speak, be unable to think. Others could just recover like nothing happened. So it's also different, that it makes it tricky. Just lump stroke and stroke recovery is one.
Yeah. Are you one of the youngest that it happened to? Or are you seen younger?
I've met individuals that have had it younger, but I was on the younger side. I mean, most people when they think of individuals having stroke, you think of someone 60, 70,
Right.
80.
Right.
You know, that's
Yeah.
more common. Somebody in their 30s or 40s is
Right.
really, really young for that.
Yeah. So did you feel like you were almost invincible up until that point? Did you have that mentality? And then this kind of happened and you're like, dang, I'm not invincible.
I probably lived a little more recklessly than I should have. I don't know if I ever felt invincible. In a weird way, the stroke maybe made me feel more resilient is probably the word. You know, if my body can handle this and my brain can handle this and I still feel motivated to do this or try this or not be scared of putting myself in this situation, it's like a certain amount of confidence that gets injected into you. So maybe more resilient. Don't know if I felt invincible before the stroke. I don't think so.
No. Okay. I like that. I know it. When I saw you in the hospital, it was interesting to see you there. You had a great attitude. Like I pictured you feeling more sorry for yourself, and you weren't like that. Is that did that take work, or is that just naturally how you are?
No, it wasn't something that I set out to put on a strong face. I don't know. By the grace of God or a higher power, I never felt scared. Even in the hospital, I remember they were talking about and I'm probably getting the medical term wrong, but a craniotomy where they have to cut open your skull to see if they need to do anything in your brain to alleviate any clots or anything. And they didn't have to, but I remember the conversation with the doctor of, we may have to. And I remember just being, okay, we'll know in the morning if I have to. And the answer was no. But thinking about it now, if somebody just came in here and told you that, I'd freak out.
Right.
You know, that's the scariest thing to hear. But in the moment, no, wasn't scary. No, never felt sorry for myself. Could have. I get frustrated. That's kind of where, and it may be just semantics, but that's kind of where I draw the line. I'll allow myself to get frustrated. Things take longer to do. But I refuse to buy into the I'm a victim and this happened, feel sorry for me. Like, I don't see any point in that.
Well, I've always loved that about you. And so what's next? What's up? What's next for JD? What's the next 45 years of your life look like? Do you like setting goals? Do you like planning? I mean,
love setting goals. Love planning, probably an over planner.
Do you get upset if you don't hit the goals, or do you just set them low enough so you can hit them, or what is your process there?
Probably a combination of all those things. I love the big goals. You know, there's, I think, in certain, organizational behavior and psychological behavior, they tell you to set SMART goals.
Do you believe that?
Yeah, but I also believe there should be some big ones out there. And I also believe you should pad your stats and get to some that you're going to hit.
What's your Everest? Like, what's your big audacious goal that... Why do you laugh?
I have the stupidest Everest.
Do you?
I do. I do.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what I do in life or business or financially. If I have a pontoon boat and an RV where I can read books and watch sports, that's how I measure that I've made it in life.
Wow.
Don't know why.
So pontoon, let me get this straight. If you got a pontoon boat with a TV on it where you can watch sports
Mm-hmm.
and maybe an RV to pull it, that's your Everest? That's your you've made it goal?
Yeah, and I don't know why. I don't know anyone that has both an RV and a pontoon boat. It just sounds like this weird little fantasy that I buy into. Like back to books, I imagine going to Barnes and Noble, getting a new book, driving to the lake where my boat is, getting on it, watching some European soccer game. I don't even know how I'd get all this. I don't know enough about it, but it just sounds glorious.
Have you ever owned a boat before?
No. I've rented a few pontoon boats and it's been great.
So so you've had some experience with it. Okay. Yeah. All right. So when do you think you could hit that goal? 5 years? 10 years? Next year?
Well, I go pontoon shopping every day in my mind and on the internet. The pontoon is probably above the RV. Yeah, I could hit it. I think sometimes, I come back down to earth and do I really want it? Is it really worth the time, the effort? It sounds great. No, I think there's certain maybe business Everest that I'd like to get to with Trident Partners, my company. I don't have a certain number in mind, but we did, we were really excited that we got right at $1 million in revenue this past year. That was a metric for us. I'd love to get to 5 million in revenues. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a big number, but for 3 people, it's pretty good in our business. So those would be cool. I would love to own other businesses outside of what I do now. I like the challenge. I like the learning about different business. I can't articulate what that is or what the business looks like, but again, it's the challenge of just trying it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have criteria so that if a business was right in front of you, you'd know that would be something that's right for you to pursue?
Yeah. And it's not necessarily financial criteria. I imagine it would morph into that at some point. But one of my biggest assets in that I completely swear by is my own personal intuition. If I meet somebody within 5 or 10 minutes, if they have a good vibe, if they'll become a friend. You speak with a potential client, right away if it's going to work out or not. And same with opportunities or life choices for that matter. Does this feel right? Is this in line with my and my family's morals? And, and so the intuition I swear by. So to answer your question, yeah, if something presented itself and it felt right and I got excited about it, I would know.
So you trust your gut a lot more?
Always. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there ever a time where you didn't trust your gut and you regretted it?
That's a tough question. Didn't trust my gut and regretted it. No, nothing that comes immediately to mind. Almost didn't go meet Melissa, my future wife. I wasn't going to go somewhere where she ended up being, and I was close just to staying in that night and trusted my gut and said, go meet this girl and see what happens. And so met, and the rest is history.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. One of the traditions that we have, I know you're short on time. You're a busy guy and got stuff to do. One of the things that we like to ask is coming up with a question for our next guest. Do you have anything that you'd like to ask the next guest? Not knowing who that's going to be.
I think biggest life lesson that you've learned that's had an impact on all areas of your life. For me, probably my stroke.
Hmm.
That touches business, that touches physical fitness, that touches finances, that touches spirituality, that touches relationships, kind of all the pillars of life. So I say that question just because I'm curious, my curiosity to learn about people and what makes them tick, besides what you see and what their job title is, fascinates me.
That's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, because I am the same way. I'm more naturally curious about people's story.
Mm-hmm.
What makes them tick? What experiences have they encountered that brought them to this point? What they've learned in the past. How can that translate to their future? All those things I'm just massively curious about.
Yeah, everybody's got stuff, and that's what makes people interesting, and and how you can relate to different things and different experiences that people have gone through. It fascinates me too. I love quotes, so I'm always curious what people's favorite quote may be, what their favorite book might be. Those little things I think kind of give you some insight.
Yeah. Do you follow like somebody pretty regularly, like maybe a mentor or celebrity or whatever it is? There's somebody that you follow closely?
No.
No. Okay. Just kind of a mix of a lot of different people.
Yeah. I truly do believe that the right speaker, the right book, the right podcast, the right YouTube, whatever it might be, kind of finds its way to you. Like, I believe in that existential spiritualness of the world. If I need something, I'm going to hear it somehow. And it could be a song, it could be a book. I don't know. But no, I don't really follow anyone.
Have you always been that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something I didn't know about you. I would not have thought of you as a spiritual guy.
Very spiritual.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me,
do you hide it?
I don't know if I hide it. I may not wear it on my sleeve.
Not that if I don't recognize it, like, you don't do it. I mean, it's like.
No, I don't think I hide it, but I have to trust something bigger than myself otherwise it would just be too complex and too stressful, I think, for me to try to figure it out on my own. There's in business and in life, there's so many hiccups, so many challenges, so many frustrations that if there's not, for me, something you can depend on to get you through to the other side, it can be pretty scary. So I've bought into that my whole life, even when things are great. I've bought into that, and it's
worked.
Just my own thing, but yeah,
it's worked for you
so far.
Cool, man. Well, that's all I have for you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll have to have you back and see if we get that pontoon boat.
Please do.
All right. Later.
See ya.